a handsome, hard-working, and diligent man, was falsely accused and wrongfully imprisoned. To clear his name, he vowed to uncover the mastermind behind the frame-up and launch a thrilling revenge. Before the injustice, Park Tae-joong was a kind and reliable young man who worked tirelessly to make a living, delivering food by bike almost without rest. One day, while delivering food, Park Tae-joong noticed a potted plant on the stairs with leaves about to wilt. As a plant lover, he moved the pot to a shaded area and left a note reminding the owner to avoid excessive sun exposure. After finishing his delivery, Park Tae-joong met an elderly woman who asked him to help carry her luggage. He kindly agreed without hesitation. That night, Park Tae-joong was eating a rice ball outside a convenience store when a nearby phone rang. He answered, and a young woman on the other end said she had left her phone behind and asked him to return it, offering a generous reward. Eager to earn money, Park Tae-joong agreed. Upon arriving at the designated location, a desolate tunnel, the woman called again, saying she was uncomfortable letting a man into her home and asked him to leave the phone in a phone booth inside the tunnel. Park Tae-joong followed her instructions, took the reward, and left, unaware that this night would mark the beginning of a nightmare. Days later, on a rainy day, Park Tae-joong was busy moving rain-soaked plants indoors when there was a sudden knock at the door. To his shock, it was the police, who arrested him on charges of sexual assault and murder. It turned out a young woman had recently been murdered and dismembered, and the police had seemingly identified Park Tae-joong as the suspect. He protested his innocence, but the police only emphasized the severity of the situation and refused to release him. Soon, Park Tae-joong's girlfriend and friends all learned about his arrest. His friends came to visit and told him that his personal information had been leaked online. They urged him to hold on, saying they would do everything they could to help him outside. Later, his girlfriend came to see him. Facing her, Park Tae-joong shouted that he was innocent, insisting he had never committed murder. His girlfriend believed in his character and promised to do everything she could to get him out. She hired a lawyer, who said the top priority was to find Park Tae-joong's alibi. His girlfriend and friends realized that as a delivery rider, Park Tae-joong had records of every delivery. Finding these records could prove he had no time to commit the crime. At the trial, the lawyer presented this evidence. According to the schedule, Park Tae-joong had been busy delivering food all day on the day of the crime, leaving no time to kill and dispose of a body. The presentation of the schedule gave Park Tae-joong hope of clearing his name. However, the prosecution's detailed indictment quickly turned the situation around. They presented Park Tae-joong's GPS location on the day of the crime, raising several questions. One was that he had delivered food to the victim's neighborhood, and the time he spent going up and down the stairs exceeded the normal delivery time. Park Tae-joong explained it was because of the potted plant he had moved it and left a note, which took a few extra minutes. The prosecution then asked why he had been carrying a suitcase that day. Park Tae-joong said he had helped an elderly person with it after finishing his deliveries. Unexpectedly, the prosecution revealed that this was the very suitcase found at the crime scene. Forensic results confirmed it had been used to transport the body. Additionally, convenience store surveillance showed that Park Tae-joong had been in possession of the victim's phone. He explained that he had picked it up by chance and intended to return it to the owner. But the prosecution presented evidence that the tunnel where Park Tae-joong returned the phone was only a few dozen meters away from the body disposal site. In addition to these doubts, the prosecution presented a crucial piece of ironclad evidence. Investigations revealed that the victim had been dismembered inside the building where she lived. Moreover, a male's bodily fluid was found on the victim's lower body. Forensic results proved that the fluid sample matched Park Tae-joong's perfectly. Every piece of evidence pointed squarely at Park Tae-joong. Based on this, the prosecution charged him with murder and sexual assault. Park Tae-joong shouted his innocence, completely at a loss as to how this could have happened. At this point, the prosecution spoke again, pointing out that the sun-exposed potted plant Park Tae-joong mentioned did not exist in that building. Park Tae-joong was plunged into despair. That day, his girlfriend came to visit him again. However, by this point, the lawyer had already given up on defending him. Even his girlfriend had lost faith in Park Tae-joong. The reason was that in the evidence photos from the scene, she saw a couple's bracelet that belonged to Park Tae-joong. In a state of collapse, the girlfriend took off the bracelet and broke up with him. She could no longer bring herself to believe in her lover. Not long after, Park Tae-joong was sentenced to life in prison and sent to prison. Shortly after becoming a prisoner, a public defender, Lawyer King, came to see him. Lawyer King appeared full of compassion. He said he had doubts about Park Tae-joong's case, believing the prosecution's investigation had not considered other possibilities. He urged Park Tae-joong to try his hardest to recall any clues he could think of, and that he would do everything in his power to help. For Park Tae-joong, who was in dire straits, Lawyer King was undoubtedly a lifeline in a moment of despair. Park Tae-joong believed him and brought up the matter of the bracelet. Only recently had he noticed that the bracelet in the evidence photos did not seem to be his. His bracelet should have been left in his younger brother's dormitory. Before going out to deliver food that day, he had taken a short nap in his brother's dorm, and that was when he must have left the bracelet there. Lawyer King took note of this discrepancy. He stated that this clue would open up an entirely new angle in the case, and told Park Tae-joong not to mention it to anyone else. As a newly arrived inmate, Park Tae-joong endured relentless bullying in prison. Now, he pinned all his hopes on Lawyer King, believing that as long as the bracelet evidence was investigated, the injustice he bore would be cleared. However, reality dealt Park Tae-joong another crushing blow. Lawyer King failed to bring hope of a case turnaround. Instead, he brought the devastating news of Park Tae-joong's younger brother's death. According to Lawyer King, by the time he reached the dormitory, the younger brother was already dead, and a suicide note had been left behind. The loss of his brother extinguished Park Tae-joong's last flicker of hope. That night, in despair, Park Tae-joong chose to end his life. Yet, as he closed his eyes, he seemed to see his beloved younger brother and hear him urging him to live on. Holding on to this faint glimmer of hope, Park Tae-joong attempted suicide 3 times but failed each time. Enduring pain and despair, Park Tae-joong now existed like a walking corpse, merely surviving. His friends visited every month, but he refused to see them, having lost all faith in life. On Easter, the prison church held an event, and Park Tae-joong was taken there by the guards. The acolyte, No Young-sik, who was also a prisoner, handed Park Tae-joong a piece of cake. Using Christian words, he comforted the hollow shell that was Park Tae-joong, urging him to live on, even if he couldn't adapt, as if he were already dead. He advised Park Tae-joong to consider the time that followed a gift from God, and to do everything he had ever regretted not doing. No Young-sik's words struck a chord in Park Tae-joong's heart, and he finally broke down in tears. In the long, lightless time that followed, Park Tae-joong became a follower of Christ. While silently enduring the bullying of his fellow inmates, he threw himself into life with all his might. He read, exercised, and obtained technical certifications. He also planted seeds. Gradually, spring arrived. The certifications Park Tae-joong had earned had piled up like a small mountain, and the seeds he had sown had sprouted. Due to his daily workouts, he had become increasingly resilient and tough. 5 years had passed in the blink of an eye. The saplings Park Tae-joong had nurtured had now grown into a full nursery. The prison guards regarded him as an expert in plants, and often came to seek his advice whenever they encountered plant-related issues. Park Tae-joong had managed to endure, largely thanks to No Young-sik, who had often looked after him and treated him as a friend. But this day, No Young-sik was about to be released. Park Tae-joong felt a deep sense of loss as he bid farewell to his only friend, bowing deeply to him and loudly expressing his gratitude for No Young-sik's care and companionship over the years. After No Young-sik's release, Park Tae-joong took over as the new acolyte in the church. Initially, with his faith in God, he had found a reason to live. But one day, a visit and confession from a fellow inmate brought a dark truth to light. The inmate was new, and Park Tae-joong, following the example set by No Young-sik, gave the young man a Bible, hoping he would find strength in it. However, during confession, the young man told Park Tae-joong that he had been framed. If he had not gone out of his way to return the phone, none of this would have happened. Park Tae-joong was stunned. His own wrongful conviction had also started with picking up a phone. Then, the young man mentioned a public defender, none other than the very same Lawyer King who had once actively helped Park Tae-joong. And just as with Park Tae-joong, after meeting Lawyer King, the young man's mother had mysteriously died by suicide. Yet, the young man could not believe his mother had taken her own life. How could a mother who always told him not to do anything foolish choose to end her life? The young man's account left Park Tae-joong deeply shocked. Every detail of his story, the way he had been wronged, was almost identical to what had happened to Park Tae-joong. From this point on, Park Tae-joong began to re-examine his own case. The very next day, the young man who had confessed to Park Tae-joong died in prison also by suicide. By this point, Park Tae-joong was almost certain that behind both his own wrongful conviction and that of the young man, there must be a dark hand manipulating everything. Driven by this realization, Park Tae-joong actively reached out to Lawyer King, falsely claiming to have thought of additional clues. During their meeting, Park Tae-joong confronted Lawyer King, stating that he did not believe the similarities between the two cases were mere coincidences. As expected, after a round of questioning, Lawyer King dropped his disguise and revealed his true nature. With a sinister smile, he admitted that the entire case had been fabricated. The conspiracy had begun in secret from the moment Park Tae-joong picked up the phone. Later, Park Tae-joong's younger brother found his bracelet in the dormitory, sensing something was amiss only to be murdered as a result. Hearing the truth firsthand, Park Tae-joong was filled with righteous fury. He swore that one day, he would kill Lawyer King to clear his own name and avenge the injustice. Afterwards, Park Tae-joong went to return the Bible to the priest, secretly taking a nail from under the church table. He vowed from that day forward to repay blood with blood. The mastermind behind the frame-up was a young man named An Yo-han, and Yo-han specialized in helping wealthy individuals cover up troubles, such as murder. If a rich young man got into trouble, An Yo-han would have the young man's father, the group's chairman, pay a hefty sum to purchase a particular sculpture. Acquiring the sculpture signified that An Yo-han had accepted the commission. Thereafter, he would meticulously orchestrate a series of near-perfect setups, pinning the blame on innocent people and allowing the wealthy young man to walk free. A killer doctor was responsible for executing An Yo-han's cleanup tasks, creating false crime scenes and evidence. Lawyer King was also part of An Yo-han's operation. At the same time, while Park Tae-joong in prison was executing a secret plan. During this time, using his skills, Park Tae-joong no longer feared the prison's top inmate, even beating his opponent into submission and warning him not to provoke him again. The prison's top inmate, nicknamed Principal, had originally intended to eliminate the increasingly powerful Park Tae-joong. However, the warden privately approached him, hinting that he should not act recklessly. The two of them had been secretly involved in murderous activities within the prison, but with the recent death of the wrongfully accused young man, the warden, fearing a major scandal, instructed the principal not to cause any more trouble for the time being. After being released, No Young-sik took over his father's repair shop, barely making ends meet by fixing appliances. Learning from the priest that Park Tae-joong had returned the Bible, No Young-sik grew concerned and met with him, worried that Park Tae-joong might be giving up on himself. Park Tae-joong shook his head and chose to confide his plan to No Young-sik. He was going to escape. To achieve his escape, Park Tae-joong began his secret operations in plain sight. While cleaning during the day, he would deliberately note the guards' shift changes, the keys to the doors, the arrival times of the food delivery trucks, and so on. He had to prepare meticulously for all these details. Yet, danger lurked at every turn within the prison. That night, a cellmate was transferred to Park Tae-joong's cell. The cellmate had been sent by the principal, who was unwilling to let go and wanted him to teach Park Tae-joong a lesson. Unfortunately for the principal, his plan backfired. Park Tae-joong sensed the danger and, after a brief fight, defeated the cellmate without a scratch. However, Park Tae-joong realized that the principal was a major threat that had to be eliminated. The next day, Park Tae-joong deliberately provoked the principal by bringing up how he had violated his own sister, infuriating him. The enraged principal, now intent on killing Park Tae-joong, was subdued by the arriving guards and placed in solitary confinement. With the obstacle removed, Park Tae-joong asked the guard, Yang, who had often looked out for him, for several seemingly useless pieces of sponge. In secret, Park Tae-joong hid the sponges under a flower pot and later brought them into a warehouse in another area. The next day, he ambushed and attacked a cellmate who was cleaning the area, then volunteered to take over the cleaning duties. While cleaning, Park Tae-joong went to the warehouse, retrieved the sponge, and used it as a mold to create a key shape. He then poured a liquid substance into the mold when no one was looking and hid the half-formed key in a flower bed. Later, under the pretense of fixing a guard's car, Park Tae-joong took advantage of the guard's absence to go to the workshop. There, using the skills he had learned, he cut and copied 2 keys. When the guard returned, he conducted a routine search, but failed to find the hidden key because it wasn't on Park Tae-joong. It was tucked inside the burger bag the guard had given him. At the same time, the killer doctor, who was working with An Yo-han, arrived at the prison under the guise of administering vaccines to the prisoners. His real intention was to secretly replace the medication and kill Park Tae-joong. Fortunately, the warden unintentionally helped Park Tae-joong. The previous day, the prison had held a fighting competition, and the warden had bet on Park Tae-joong, who was known for his fighting skills. Not wanting the vaccine to affect his performance, the warden had someone else take Park Tae-joong's place for the vaccination. Park Tae-joong, however, had no interest in the fight. The next day, he casually knocked out one of his opponents and called it a day. Today was the day Park Tae-joong had planned to escape. Only half an hour remained before the plan was to be executed. At this moment, the killer doctor discovered that the person who had been vaccinated was an imposter and insisted that Park Tae-joong receive the vaccine. Park Tae-joong, while keeping an eye on the time, agreed to the injection. Unbeknownst to him, the doctor had replaced the vaccine with a lethal drug. After being injected, Park Tae-joong seized the moment to retrieve the hidden nail he had stashed away. He jammed the nail into the power source, cutting off the electricity and disabling the surveillance cameras. While the guards went to investigate the power outage, Park Tae-joong slipped into the control room and stole the keys. He then used the copied keys to open the warehouse, where he secretly changed into civilian clothes for an easier escape. With the stolen keys, he unlocked the iron doors one by one, finally reaching a ventilation shaft, the only spot out of the guard's sight. Park Tae-joong removed his prison uniform and crawled into the shaft. The passage wasn't very long, and soon, he spotted a meeting room below. He climbed down and dropped into another warehouse, which led to a corridor leading to the prison's service area. Reaching the service area meant he was just a few steps away from the prison gate and freedom. Park Tae-joong pretended to be a visitor sitting in the service area's lobby. He quietly cut open a food box brought by an elderly man, creating a diversion to slip away unnoticed. Thanks to his meticulous planning, Park Tae-joong actually made it out of the service area's door. Regrettably, the moment he stepped outside, the drug's effects kicked in, making the world spin around him. He ultimately collapsed at the entrance, foiling his escape. When he woke up, Park Tae-joong found himself back in the prison's infirmary. The doctor informed him that he had been injected with rat poison. Fortunately, because he often took vitamins, the poison's potency was weakened. The prison guard, aware of Park Tae-joong's escape attempt, spoke harshly to him. Once Park Tae-joong recovered, an investigation would be launched. Park Tae-joong asked the guard to convey his gratitude to No Young-sik, as it was No Young-sik who had bought the vitamins for him. In a way, No Young-sik had saved his life once again. At this moment, the principal had just been released from solitary confinement and immediately came looking for Park Tae-joong with a group of his men. However, Park Tae-joong had long developed the habit of sensing danger. When the principal stabbed into the bed, it was empty. Facing the principal's aggressive approach, Park Tae-joong stood his ground alone. Though the principal had the numbers, he underestimated Park Tae-joong. With his exceptional skills, Park Tae-joong defeated all of the principal's men. The principal, wielding a sharp weapon, lunged at him. For survival, Park Tae-joong fought like a raging beast. After a few rounds, he overpowered the principal and launched a fatal attack on his vital point. Afterward, Park Tae-joong was placed in solitary confinement. During this time, he once again saw the illusion of his younger brother. He apologized for failing to protect him and swore to kill the one responsible for his brother's death. That very night, Park Tae-joong and several other inmates were blindfolded, beaten by the guards, and then taken in a secret van to an unknown location. This was also part of An Yo-han's plan. An Yo-han had extensive connections in the political world. The day before, he had approached the police chief, who then ordered the prison warden to comply with An Yo-han's every request. An Yo-han handed the warden a proposal to secretly extract over a dozen high-risk prisoners from the prison. As payment, An Yo-han tossed the warden 2 pieces of gold worth hundreds of millions. The greedy warden readily agreed. Later, the warden gathered several guards, gave each a large sum of money, and instructed them to cooperate. With the warden and multiple guards in on the plan, a total of 12 prisoners, including Park Tae-joong, were secretly taken out of the prison. Meanwhile, An Yo-han was gleefully reviewing the files of the 12 prisoners, each a notorious criminal, except for Park Tae-joong, who had been wrongfully convicted. That night, the 12 prisoners were taken to a secret location. The next morning, they were all dressed in white and brought to what appeared to be an abandoned factory. Standing at the highest point, greeting them, was the mastermind behind it all, An Yo-han. An Yo-han, filled with excitement, announced to the 12 prisoners that this was their land of opportunity. At this point, Park Tae-joong still did not know that An Yo-han was the very person who had framed him and was responsible for his downfall. The mastermind behind this incident, An Yo-han, is a representative of an investment company. He is both a genius and a madman. Once, he ordered a killer doctor to cut off someone's finger, then had a real human finger inserted into a fake sculpture. Privately, An Yo-han runs a special security company that caters to the wealthy. It helps them cover up their children's murders and find scapegoats. 5 years ago, a lawmaker's son committed murder. An Yo-han took the job. He sent his men to the crime scene, then used modern technology to create a highly detailed 3D model of the site. This allowed him, from kilometers away, to clearly see every drop of blood and every fingerprint at the scene. After assessing the crime scene, Johan used his nationwide network of surveillance cameras to look for unfortunate individuals who had appeared near the scene. At that time, delivery driver Park Tae-joong just happened to be nearby. Once the scapegoat was chosen, Johan had his men tail Park Tae-joong, monitoring his every move to gather information about his personal relationships, preferences, and more. Next, a special cleaning team infiltrated Park Tae-joong's home, collecting his fingerprints and any other useful evidence. Later, the team attached Park Tae-joong's fingerprints and footprints to various items related to the crime scene. They even retrieved Park Tae-joong's discarded household trash, extracted his personal bodily fluids, and had a doctor inject them into the victim's body, creating a false impression that Park Tae-joong had killed and assaulted the victim. And Johan left no detail untouched in fabricating the murderer. When surveillance revealed that Park Tae-joong had lost his bracelet, Johan immediately ordered an identical one to be placed at the crime scene. After learning from a lawyer that Park Tae-joong's bracelet was actually at his brother's dormitory, the killer doctor was sent to the dormitory to kill the brother and destroy the evidence. Every detail of Park Tae-joong's supposed presence at the crime scene, from helping an elderly person with their luggage to moving a potted plant in the hallway, was meticulously tailored by Johan based on Park Tae-joong's personal traits. Now, 5 years later, beyond framing others, Johan has begun a brand new hunting game. That night, including Park Tae-joong, the prisoners were transferred to a secret factory. The prisoners, puzzled, found the factory filled with lavish delicacies. Starved for so long, they immediately gorged themselves. After eating, the prisoners were led to individual dormitories labeled with numbers. Most went to bed in confusion, except Park Tae-joong. Late at night, Park Tae-joong tried to escape. Armed mercenaries were stationed everywhere. He moved cautiously, inching toward the exit, but with so many lookouts, he was eventually discovered. The mercenaries raised their guns, and Johan even arrived by car, beckoning Park Tae-joong to come closer, feigning kindness, and offering to take him back to the dorm. Park Tae-joong refused to get in, instead demanding to know why they had been brought there, and Johan hinted that the prisoners would soon be forced into a competition. After being sent back, Park Tae-joong saw the principal, who had been hostile toward him, and his group still gorging themselves in the living room. The principal once again taunted Park Tae-joong, vowing revenge. Words escalated into a fight until a mercenary fired a warning shot into the air, forcing them to back down. The next morning, a loud broadcast roused the prisoners, marking the start of a new and dangerous day. Dressed in white suits provided by Johan, they were gathered in the factory's open space. Standing at the highest point, Johan announced it was a racetrack. The prisoners would race in randomly assigned vehicles, with no rules. One prisoner, outraged by Johan's lawlessness, refused to participate, and Johan immediately shot him dead on the spot. The rest fell silent. In the tense atmosphere, Johan's men arrived in a truck, and Johan announced that inside the truck was 5 billion won in cash, which would belong to the winner of the race. Next, the prisoners were to retrieve their assigned vehicles from the pit stop according to the numbers on their uniforms, and Johan offered each prisoner a chance to meet with him privately, inviting them to see him if they had any questions. Besides the participants, Johan had invited 2 spectators, one of them being Mr. Beck, the lawmaker's son who had committed murder years earlier. Johan explained to Mr. Beck that the race was a dogfight, similar to the bloodshed in ancient Roman arenas, and he wanted Mr. Beck to witness this fight of trapped beasts in person. Afterward, he planned to expand the competition into a global underground business, forcing more prisoners into the arena and attracting wealthy bettors. Later, the prisoners went to the factory's pit stop to collect their vehicles. Since the assignments were random, each received a car of vastly different makes and conditions. Some got top-tier sports cars, while others ended up with dilapidated sedans. Among the prisoners, the tattooed man was the first to request a meeting with Johan. He bowed respectfully, proposing a long-term partnership and offering to become Johan's most obedient toy. The principal also met with Johan. If he won the race, he asked for a different reward. He wanted Park Tae-joong dead. Johan laughed, saying he didn't care about the players' lives. If the principal could kill Park Tae-joong in the game, he would simply watch. With no rules in place, the prisoners began fighting among themselves, each trying to snatch the best vehicles. Meanwhile, prisoner No. 10 approached Park Tae-joong, seeking an alliance and proudly showing off the high-end sports car he had been assigned. At night, Park Tae-joong helped repair and reinforce the sports car. At that moment, the tattooed man came with several others to seize the car. However, Park Tae-joong sped off like the wind and directly rammed into the tattooed man, knocking him aside. Park Tae-joong's boldness angered the principal, who pursued him fiercely in a car, intent on both killing Park Tae-joong and stealing the vehicle. But Park Tae-joong, showing no fear, drove straight into the principal with full force, leaving the principal dizzy and disoriented. Seeing this, An Johan ordered the mercenaries into action. After the mercenaries fired warning shots again, the principal and his group finally ceased the conflict. However, due to the earlier collision, Prisoner No. 10's sports car exploded. In the instant the car exploded, Park Tae-joong coincidentally noticed a vehicle ramp nearby, which led to the outside world, the land of freedom. Thus, Park Tae-joong once again conceived an escape plan. In order to break out a second time, the next day, Park Tae-joong requested a meeting with An Johan. Under the pretense of conversation, he observed the surrounding terrain and situation, searching for any possible means of escape. The race was scheduled for the following day. That night, Park Tae-joong fully modified his car. With the technical licenses he had obtained during his 5 years in prison, he was already highly skilled at repairs and modifications. The next day, the prisoners speculated wildly about the upcoming race. The tattooed man cast his gaze toward Park Tae-joong. Based on Park Tae-joong's past performance in prison, the tattooed man was certain that Park Tae-joong would be the final winner even if he were driving the worst car. For this reason, the tattooed man and his companions agreed that they would do everything possible to eliminate Park Tae-joong. And Johan contacted the tattooed man, accepting his proposal for a long-term partnership. He mentioned that he had placed a gift in the tattooed man's car, hoping he would use it to make the race more interesting. When the race began, the prisoners drove their respective cars to the arena one by one. Before the start, An Johan once again emphasized that there were no rules in the race, which meant that every driver could do whatever it took to win. As the drivers prepared, inside the highest room, the lawmaker's son, Mr. Baek, and others rolled up their sleeves and began placing bets. With the sound of tires screeching against the ground, a fierce battle for life and death officially began. Thanks to the modified vehicle, one prisoner pressed hard on the accelerator, only for the car to suddenly catch fire and explode halfway, killing the driver on the spot. Seeing this, the lawmaker's son clapped his hands and shouted that the game was thrilling. However, An Johan's gaze fell on Park Tae-joong. Ever since Park Tae-joong met with him the day before, An Johan had felt that Park Tae-joong seemed very familiar. Recalling what Park Tae-joong had said, An Johan suddenly remembered that Park Tae-joong was the scapegoat he had personally framed and wrongfully imprisoned 5 years ago. After confirming this, An Johan ordered the tattooed man to eliminate Park Tae-joong on the track. Upon receiving the command, the tattooed man pursued Park Tae-joong relentlessly. The other prisoners, also seeing Park Tae-joong as a threat, chased after him from behind. However, the large number of pursuers caused chaos, and within moments, several cars collided during the pursuit. Park Tae-joong took the opportunity to leave the trailing vehicles far behind, and Johan launched a drone to search the area, only to see Park Tae-joong suddenly emerge from a corner on a motorcycle. With exceptional skill, Park Tae-joong rode the bike and soared high over the principal's head, a sight that made the lawmaker's son applaud in admiration. The tattooed man refused to let Park Tae-joong go. He took out a gun that An Johan had given him and kept firing at Park Tae-joong. However, Park Tae-joong had set up a trap, a gas cylinder chained to the back of the motorcycle. When the tattooed man caught up, the cylinder entangled his car, causing it to flip. Witnessing this, An Johan changed the rules of the game. From now on, the objective was to either capture or kill Park Tae-joong, and the winner would receive double the prize money. For the money, the principal pulled out a knife and engaged Park Tae-joong in a bare-handed duel. However, he still underestimated Park Tae-joong's fighting ability. In just a few rounds, Park Tae-joong completely defeated the principal. Up high, the deranged An Johan grabbed a sniper rifle and kept firing at Park Tae-joong. Park Tae-joong took cover while hopping on a motorcycle. Noticing Park Tae-joong's gaze toward the ramp, An Johan suddenly understood the real purpose of Park Tae-joong's visit the day before. To escape, Park Tae-joong smashed open the chain on the gas cylinder, causing it to be thrown and trigger a massive explosion on site. Amidst the bloody flames, Park Tae-joong sped off toward the ramp on the motorcycle. At that moment, An Johan pulled the trigger behind him.